So welcome back, or welcome along for the first time if you're one of the various new people who's arrived, thanks to my recent interaction with Canadian Permaculture Legacy channel. So last week I watched one of his videos, I came out into my garden, just kind of pondering how it might apply to... It's a helicopter, it's not very helpful when you're trying to film a YouTube. Where was I? Yes, last week I watched this video, came out here, was thinking about how it related to my situation, and I thought, well, since I'm in lockdown, why not actually just film myself sort of thinking aloud with these questions, shoot it back to him and see if he's got anything to say. And the absolute mad lad only went and made a 40-minute video to answer everything that I'd mentioned in extensive detail. So the first thing I really obviously need to say is thanks, because he doesn't know me from Adam, but he's taken a lot of time out of his day to help me out with my garden activities. So I've got my tea, which means I am ready to reply. Now, in the name of managing expectations, I do feel I should make clear there's some fairly major differences between his channel and my channel. Firstly, knowledge. He very kindly said I know my plants, but I can assure you that I kind of don't. So my EXIF data tells me I started attacking this space on the 1st of June last year, so less than a year, and prior to that basically no practical experience at all with plants, no educational experience in biology or ecology, any other biology or science. So if you're here to learn, you might be disappointed, you might learn from some mistakes I make, and that's about it. Secondly, ambition and scope. So he's obviously got an amazing plot of land in Canadian countryside, and he's planting trees and creating rivers and all sorts, whereas I've got this sort of paved urban yard with 1, 2, 3 flower beds, so you'll not get any trees or rivers from me. So under those circumstances I would never normally have started a YouTube at all. It's purely because of this lockdown, can't go out, got nothing else to do, and my parents can't come and visit, or vice versa, so I thought it'd be nice to kind of keep up with them. So I'm kind of amazed if anybody else in the world wants to watch, but you're all very welcome. Thirdly, he's talking about food forests, he's got fruit trees, he's got vegetable patches. I'm not growing any food, I'm unashamedly here for the aesthetics, even though that's a bit unfashionable I suppose. But there is the one point of overlap, which is the overall philosophy, as it were, the overall approach. And because I've just got this tiny little rented space with some flowers and no food or trees or anything, I hesitate to call myself anything as grand as permaculture, but I do have a little point of overlap in that I want something which will look after itself without the constant human inputs. And my reason for wanting a garden that runs itself is slightly unusual. Obviously most people who get involved in permaculture, keyword permanent, so they've probably got their land and they can take it as read that if they make a change like planting a tree, and that tree is going to stay there because no one's going to chop it down because it's their tree on their land. Now I'm in a rented garden, so everything I do to this garden, if I were to be evicted or choose to move out, I wouldn't be able to maintain it. And the next tenant could well be somebody like I was when I moved in, and spends 2 years doing absolutely nothing to the garden because they're generation rent who's used to living in tower blocks of flats and stuff in places like London without a garden. So I wanted something that even if the next tenant moved in and did nothing, it would continue to provide some sort of ecological benefit. Obviously I can't control the possibility the next tenant moves in and is very keen on gardening to the point where they rip everything out because they want their own selection of plants, but again, the only way I can really guard against that is by planting stuff which is really nice and really successful, that somebody will think, wow, what a shame to take that out. So yeah, looking for something that runs without human inputs. What do I mean by human inputs? Well, firstly, water. So I do get quite a lot of rain here, so my intention was that I should definitely not have a kind of garden that needs me to be in and out with a watering can, because wastewater is a very big climate change ecological type issue and I don't want to be adding to it. So I chose things which didn't claim to need to be totally sodden in marshland, but otherwise I figured I'd get enough rain that it would be fine. Unfortunately, last year in June, just as I got started, we had a very prolonged dry patch. Pretty much no rain for the whole month, which is almost unheard of here, so I did do a lot of watering. I'm hoping I won't have to often, and I'm considering obviously harvesting some rainwater, but that's for the future. Secondly, food, fertiliser, that kind of thing. I'm pleased to say I've used absolutely none so far. Pesticides, likewise, haven't used any kind of chemical pesticide control. I have removed a few slugs by hand or by trowel, but that's about it. And then planting things obviously is a human input, but I won't count that. Weeding things, this is where I finally get to the point of reacting to his reaction to my reaction to his video. So partly just for the sheer want of something to do out here, I did some weeding, and therein lies the contradiction of wanting a garden without human inputs, which is that I kind of do philosophically, ecologically speaking, but I obviously kind of don't, because gardening is supposed to be a hobby, which is another word for a pastime, which is something which passes the time. So if you did have a perfectly self-sustaining garden that you had to do no activity in whatsoever, then what would be the point of that? It wouldn't be a hobby. You wouldn't pass any time. So I was particularly delighted to learn about his concept of chop and drop, because that means I can do something that feels like it's ecologically sound, but still involves a bit of busy work. So anytime I'm bored and I want to spend some time out here, I can go, yay, I'm going to pull bits of you up and then just drop you here to fertilise, except try not to do that because I've just pulled the roots out, which means they'll multiply, etc., as per his highly informative video. So yeah, chop and drop, good tip. Loving your advice, and I'll definitely be doing plenty of that out here in future. So when I talk about hoping to build some kind of semi-permanent improvement to the ecology or environment in my tiny area, then what exactly do I mean? Because obviously I am in the middle of a city, so I can't like I said, plant trees and make rivers. I'm not going to be attracting any moose or bears because we don't even have them on this island, and even the biggest things that we do have, like red deer or something like that, I'm not going to be attracting them either. So what am I trying to do? Well, St John's wort is shrub type, bush type variety of it, hopefully. If it turns into one the size of my cousin's, which is like the size of a house, then I've got problems. But yeah, hopefully that'll be about 3 or 4 feet high. So that provides some nectar, some berries, some cover for maybe some birds to benefit from. Otherwise, this bed is not really that environmental, to be honest. It's more aesthetic, as you can see from here. This is just shamelessly visual, but that is also a big favourite of the bees, so it does help a bit environmentally. And then the wall, likewise, I'm just trying to pack out with photosynthesis and flowers, mostly from the campanula, which takes care of itself. But yeah, like I say, this bed isn't really that environmentally useful at the moment. Maybe I can improve that as I go along. The front bed is basically designed to be a bee buffet. So obviously the lavender was the starting point. They were here when I moved in, and bees like lavender, so let's stuff this bed full of things that bees also like. So I've got some sages. This is the newest one. I've got 3 sages so far, and the bees like that as well. And I'm just gonna basically keep going, pack this with flowers, lots of nectar. I can't actually remember off the top of my head if bees are into this rose campion or not. Hopefully they are, or if they're not, then some other kind of insect or butterfly or whatever it is. And if nothing likes it at all except me, then tough luck, because I do still like it and it is still my garden, and I'm not an extremist about these things. I can afford to have 1 or 2 plants that are just nice for me. We've got a hydrangea, which likewise wasn't my doing, and at the back we've got a bit more diversity of wildlife related activities. So I've got rockery for encouraging spiders and beetles and stuff, deadwood pile likewise. And I meant to say on the topic of these dead leaves that one of the problems is that they just don't seem to break down. They just stay exactly as they are for like years on end. So I reckon there should be some species of beetle or something that shreds those leaves for me, because I don't have a shredder. So I wish I'd asked that, but I didn't. But hopefully in due course these environments will maybe create a bit more insect activity, and then hopefully that will bring some more bird activity as well. I do see a robin around here very occasionally, but I'm hoping the more insects there are, the more insectivores there will be. Birds obviously also like trees, shrub, nesting cover type stuff, so there is a Japanese quince at the back that's too small to even see so far, that stick there. And then I planted this sweet box as well, so maybe when the back of the fence is all covered in bushes, and when all this ground cover has grown together and merged into solid ground cover, I'm hoping this bed will be absolutely full of insects, beetles, worms, spiders, even slugs and stuff, because they will be serving as food. So at the moment I've got quite a lot of slugs in here, and they have wrecked some of my plants' leaves, and I have sliced some of them in half with a trowel as a result. But ideally I want nature to be helping me out and eating them. So where was I? Yeah, leaves. So yeah, that was my other question, what do I do with these leaves? And the answer was, in a nutshell, shred them so that they don't turn into this solid mat that just chokes out all growth. So again, very grateful for your advice and answer. In this case, I don't have a shredder, so I suppose I should be grateful that it's lockdown and I have nothing else to do, so I can sit there and cut up those leaves with a pair of nail scissors, if that's what it takes. I did say a minute ago I wanted busy work, but I should have been careful what I wished for, because chopping up all these leaves by hand is certainly going to be busy work. And then my third question was about putting a green roof on top of this shed, and the bulk of the response was around being cautious about the sheer weight that the soil would have, especially when it was waterlogged. So first and foremost, I suppose the response is to re-emphasise I'm not in a million years going to actually put a green roof on that shed, because it's not my shed. So all of the legal and practical considerations are just far too impractical for a tenant to contemplate. But I would actually be fairly unworried about it taking weight, because it's such a beefy structure. My dad even hypothesised it was a World War II bomb shelter. But yeah, I'm probably not going to go ahead with it. I just couldn't help being tempted by the idea, because for such a small space that I have, that would pretty much double the amount of area that I could grow plants on. I should stress that I don't want to sound all jealous and bitter when I talk about having such a small garden, because I'm aware that many people don't have any, especially in lockdown. That's really a great privilege for me to have access to this space, so I'm not taking it for granted. And it's actually one of the reasons I sort of started this channel, is maybe if people don't have any such space, they can get a bit of vicarious pleasure out of this one, which is why I don't put in music. I don't cut my slow and rambling talking, because I kind of think it's like slow TV where you're just out in the garden and you can hear the birds and the traffic and other delightful background noise, helicopters. But anyway, that's about it from me for now, I think. So finally, just one more huge thanks to Canadian Permaculture Legacy for putting in such an amazing effort in answering my questions, and just for sharing their expertise and enthusiasm just generally to all of us. So for anybody out there, him or anyone else that's doing some gardening and planting some plants, good luck to you, and let's hope for lots of amazingly healthy ecologies in the coming months and years.